Hello and welcome to First Love. We are a ministry that is dedicated to helping women pursue and encounter Jesus amongst all of life's distractions. I'm so excited to spend a few minutes doing just that with you today. But before I get into what I want to share just a little bit about my running journey that I started about 6 months ago. I am someone who, if you know me at all, I've always said I'm not a runner. I don't like running. I hate running, da-da-da. And it was about 6 months ago where I started to feel like I needed to start running. And someone recently actually asked me why I needed to start running. And I told them two reasons. One was because I absolutely hated it. And the other reason why I felt like I needed to start running was because I had little to no endurance. I had done strength training for years and really enjoyed it, but my endurance level was kaput. And so I felt like I needed to challenge myself in this new way. And I remember the first day I went out and started my little run. I think I made it about 3 minutes into it. And guys, I'm not sprinting at this point. I'm not even jogging probably. This is me going at probably a 13 and a half to 14 minute pace. And so I just was so out of shape, like I was saying. So here I'm going and did my 3 minutes, hated every minute of it, and was very proud of myself that I did as much as I did and moved on. And over the next month or so, I just kept kind of chipping away at it. I'd add a minute each time I ran. I would only run a few times a week, so I wasn't improving at a super amazing pace, but I was still improving. So just continued on. And finally ran my first mile. Ran it about 14 minutes. I came home, I told my husband how happy I was that I had run a mile. And when I told him the pace, he just kind of laughed at me. It was like, honey, you were practically walking. And it's true, I was walking practically, but with a bounce, which is very hard to do when you have zero endurance. I just kind of was thinking today about how running and endurance, how it talks about in scripture, we're called to run this life with endurance. And how many of you know, we need endurance like crazy to run this life. Life is hard. It throws distractions at us. It throws temptations. It throws difficult trials and situations at us. Life just requires endurance. We're not in this Christian walk for a sprint, quick 400 meter, and then we're done. I don't even know if that's a real race. Is there such a race as a 400 meter? I have no idea, but you get the idea. Anyway, so running with endurance just kind of reminded me how we need endurance for life. And one of the things that I realized while I was running and going slowly, making improvements, building up my time, was that in the first several months of doing this, I hated it. I would go on a run and the whole time be thinking about literally how much I hated doing what I was doing. And I knew it was good to be doing it. I knew that I should be, but I just couldn't get my mind past the mantra of, I hate doing this. This is really terrible. I really hate running. Why am I doing this right now? And I feel like that translates so much into our lives. How we run with endurance is all about what we're focused on and what we're concentrating on in the process. Running for me would have been so much easier if I had developed a different mantra or a different perspective as I was running. But instead of thinking things like, wow, this is really healthy for me. Wow, I'm really challenging my body. Wow, I'm getting somewhere in life. All I could think about was, I really hate this. This is really terrible. And how often do we do that in real life, right? We have a situation come up, something gets really difficult in life, and it's all of our energy, all of our attention goes to that one thing, and all we can think about is, this is really hard. I don't know how I'm gonna get past this trial. I don't know how I'm gonna make it through this. I'm overwhelmed. And it's just that one thing kind of consumes everything in our lives, right? The other morning, as I was going on a walk, not a run, I was like, let's just take a break from this whole running thing. I really enjoy walking in the mornings. And if you've heard recently, I don't know how recent, but I've just heard over the last year or so about how it's really important for your circadian rhythm to step outside about sometime in the morning and look up towards the sun, in the direction of the sun, so that you can see the light. And it's so good for your body. It lowers your cortisol levels. It helps you sleep well that night. And I've just heard there's so many health benefits to it. So I've been trying to do that when I go on a walk or a run in the morning. And it's always awkward for me because I'm like, I want the max benefit out of what I'm doing. So I'm like trying to kind of look at the sun, but I know I shouldn't actually look at the sun because I don't want to get my eyeballs burned out. So then I'm kind of looking to the side, but when I look to the side of the sun, then I feel like I'm not getting as much of the sunlight in my eyes that I need to. So I'm just back and forth. It's so hard to figure out what the right amount of sun exposure is I'm supposed to get, but anyways, I digress. So I'm looking at the sun, the direction of the sun, and just realizing like, wow, when I take a look at the sun and the light is shining in my face like that, like all of the things around me get kind of dimmed out. Like the houses around me, the trees, they kind of get grayed out and they just lose their brilliance, and they don't seem as attractive as the sun does. And I think if we apply this to real life, I would say that when we're looking to Jesus, rather than looking at all of these situations, if we look to Jesus, the light of the world, so often what I see happen is those things in my life that were all consuming, they just start to lose some of their brilliance, some of their power even, and things get put back into perspective the right way, where they should be. In Hebrews chapter 12, you've probably heard this verse before. Chapter 12, verse 1, starting at the second half of that verse, it says, "Let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising its shame, and is seated at the right hand of God." And I just love that picture of how we're in life, we're running this race, but ultimately the only way we're really going to run it and run it well, run it with endurance and not get burned out, not get overwhelmed, not get sickly, not get just beaten up by life, is by looking to Jesus. And he's the one who has all the power we need. He's the one who is our strength. He's the one that is our portion. He's the one that does the miraculous things in our lives, who's transformed us, who's continuing to walk alongside us. I can't imagine doing life without him. But how often do I forget to invite him into my process and what's going on in my life? I need to see him first and foremost as being who he actually is, so that my problems and even those good things that tend to distract me from him kind of get put back into their rightful place with a lot less brilliance, a lot less power, a lot less strength. I love this quote by Charles Spurgeon. It says, "Too many people write their blessings in the sand and their sorrows in marble." And I just think of that, how that's such a good picture of what we tend to do is we tend to kind of solidify in our minds all the things that are going wrong in life, but we forget so quickly what God has done. And so just to get on a practical level with you, like practically looking to Jesus for me looks like remembering who he is, what he's done in my life, how he has walked with me through difficult things and brought me up out of them. Also remembering that when he died on the cross in Hebrews, it says for the joy that was set before him, that's what helped him endure it, what he went through on the cross. And for me, I have a joy that's set before me, and it's him. Anything that happens in this life, it doesn't matter when I think about how I get to gain him. Another thing that helps me run with endurance in this race, not that I do it perfectly. I'm not coming to you like I'm a perfect endurance runner. But something else that helps me is when I read scripture, just looking for him in scripture, trying to find his heart. I often ask myself that question, like, what is this saying about God's heart towards me? And that helps me just see him and get pictures of him and get my focus on him. So I hope that those practical tips kind of help give you an idea of how you can, maybe in a new way, look to Jesus in your everyday life. And I thank you for taking the time to just sit with me here and to hear my heart, and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. I would love an ongoing conversation with you. So if you want to send me an email, or if you want to put a comment below, feel free. I would love to hear from you, and look forward to the next time.